So the concept of will it make the boat go faster came from when I was rowing. I competed in 3 Olympics for Britain, and in the run-up to the last Olympic Games I competed at, we became, rather than just working harder, and for years I'd done that, I'd worked harder and harder and harder, but effectively doing the same thing. And in the last couple of years, what we started doing is we started being very hard on ourselves about asking ourselves, will it make the boat go faster? Before we did anything or before we didn't do anything, will it make the boat go faster? To try and make sure that we weren't just doing things because we'd done them before, but because they were really going to make a difference. And I now work with a lot of different businesses, trying to get them to answer exactly that question, rather than people being busy doing what's in front of them. And I think so many of us are really, really busy being reactive and doing what comes in front of us, rather than doing the things that will actually make a real difference. I think some of the challenges around that are that some people don't know what their question is. They don't know what they're really trying to do. And if you don't know, then you can't challenge. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is just being happy with the status quo, not wanting to challenge, not wanting to take risks. And I think that's a real problem. Focus is really important. Focusing on what you want to achieve is really, really important, and focusing on how you can improve your performance to get there, rather than doing the same thing over and over again. Focusing on actually what you're doing, how you're doing it, and can you do it better in order to achieve your goal. And sports easy, you have one clear goal. Business is more complicated, where you might have numerous goals, but still having the focus on what you're trying to achieve is, I think, critically important. How can you answer the question, will it make the boat go faster? It's really hard, because we don't know the answers very often. But the thing that makes humans different to, I think, most other species on the planet is we can make decisions. It's not all instinct. We can make decisions. And I think that what you've got to do is you've got to challenge what you're doing and with the best information you have, you've got to make a decision, which involves risks, because you don't know whether that thing's going to work. But if you keep doing the same thing that you've done before, that's also a risk. And there's a really simple questioning technique about asking why 3 times. If you're unsure, why will this make the boat go faster? Well, okay, why will that make the boat go faster? And if you ask it 3 times, you'll come up with more information, so you can make a decision. Whether that decision's right or not, you'll find out with time. So it's a risk, but not doing anything is also a risk. So when working with a team about changing, if the direction's not right, or just dealing with change within a team, I think it's hard because we don't change at the same speed. I think that with the best will in the world, most people change different things at different speeds. And if an organisation or a team is trying to change from doing one thing to another, not everybody won't just do it at the same time. And I think something else that's really important is for a team to be able to function properly as a team, they've got to have something in common. Not lots in common, but they've got to have a clear common goal. And so long as that clear common goal is important to them, and I think in a lot of big organizations they talk about, it's about shareholder value or something, or profit, which for most people doesn't make any difference. That's not a clear common goal for most people. It's got to be a clear common goal that actually makes a difference to the people within that team. And it might take a bit of time to work it out for that team, but I think that's the most important thing. And then so long as you've got that, what you're trying to achieve at the front of your mind, you can then go through the slow process of helping each other and challenging each other to do things differently, to think about things differently, so that the change can happen. And I think also within a team you've got to spend time building up trust, but that doesn't mean people won't make mistakes. People won't make the wrong decisions, become lazy or anything else. And then part of that trust is dealing with that when it happens, and not thinking that's the end. It's just another thing that's happened, and you just have to be able to look at it and think, how will that make us better able to achieve this thing we want to achieve? The biggest challenge for a team, I think there are two. Either working out what they've got in common, or what the common goal is. I think in some organisations or teams, it's not clear, and I think that's pretty hard. Once you've overcome that, then I think very often it's ego. I think that very often we might think that this thing we're trying to achieve is really important, but then we get into the situation of thinking, well, I want to prove myself right and him or her wrong, rather than thinking, how will this help us achieve that? And we want to put ourselves in front of other people, or we want to prove that I'm right and they're wrong. And I think that's a big problem. I think it's a big problem. Once you've got the common goal sorted out. If you don't have a common goal, then that's the thing that you need to sort out, which in some situations can be very hard. So in order for a team to perform well once they've got the common goal, I think that one of the really important things to do is set up what sort of culture you want to have. I think very often we find ourselves in an environment, and that's the environment we work in, and actually coming up with a set of ground rules as such for what sort of environment do we think we need to have to be successful, and then trying to grow that environment. And those ground rules that you come up with aren't permanent, they're not fixed, because what you set up this week, you don't know what's going to happen in a month or 2 months or 6 months. They've got to be something you can review and you can come back to and you can discuss and saying, are these helping us? Do we need to change them? Do we need to start again? I think setting up the right structure is really important, but it's not solid and fixed. It's got to be flexible, and you've got to keep making sure that that's the right culture, so that everybody within the group can work in a way that will help you achieve the goal. And as you go along, you'll be asking yourselves, well, is this really making the boat go faster? And that might be around actions or behaviours, all sorts of things. And as you get different answers, you'll think that you need to work differently in order to achieve the goal. The winning factor, I think, for us was setting up a performance culture, where I think with sport it's very easy to look at the race and think, those 5 minutes or however long it was amazing. But the only reason you can get that performance is by getting the performance right every single day, every single training session for months and for years. And you've got to set up a culture where it's easy to perform, and the culture we had was very open and honest, and it was very, very performance focused. We were always looking to challenge each other as to how we can do things better, and we would look at the small detail as to, for this particular session, for the next hour, for the next 2 hours, what are the things we want to do differently? And we'd review it afterwards. How did that work? What will we do differently next time? And having the simple performance culture was the most important thing that enabled us to do 5.5 minutes really well at the end of a number of years.